I wish I had been that articulate with it. And that's why we need you and people like you on the lawmaking side again. No, absolutely. That's exactly what it means. And it also, and when we look at it in religious terms and in terms of the church, it means that there is a responsibility for us to struggle for that kind of society. And it means it's a responsibility for preachers to struggle for that. And those who don't, I would say they are practiced to some. They're guilty to some degree of ministerial malpractice. But this is core to what we must be about, and so we have to articulate that and let people know what that's about. And that's why Mamdani is exciting people, because he's articulated a value. Now he's called it democratic socialism, but like King said, call it whatever you like. But it's got to be about being free. Now, about being equal, having equal rights and equal distribution. But Mamdani was bold enough to call it what it is, like King did. So he's getting some pushback because of the term democratic socialism. But the concept itself is what the people are embracing, and they're excited by. They're tired of Eric Adams. I don't care that he's black; he's corrupt, and and he does clownish things that are just ridiculous. And Cuomo, we know what Cuomo's like. He's corrupt, and he's he's a predator on women. At least that's what it appears. So Mamdani is presenting something fresh, a fresh value. Now that's what our party needs. I mean, don't you think? I mean, to be clear, he's saying this is what I am about and what I'm looking to do. I might not be able to do it, but this is my ideal, and this is what our party needs. I shouldn't say our party, because I'm stepping back for a moment, but that's what the Democratic Party needs.
One of the things that Dr. Hendricks, I tried to advance when I was in Congress in my book 2001 called A More Perfect Union, Advancing New American Rights, was having grown up and studied at Chicago Theological Seminary with Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, and having met Dr. Cornel West for the first time while I was at Chicago Theological Seminary. I pushed back, even though I was a great student of Michael Harrington. I pushed back for political and maybe even obvious reasons on the concept of the term. Dr. King says, call it whatever you'd like. I pushed back on the idea of democratic socialism because I gauged that its reaction by other people, even though I see it and understand it to be a core Christian value, but for some reason or another, the lingering thinking from the Cold War and from the Korean conflict and the Vietnamese conflict and decades and decades of fighting the Russians and Ronald Reagan's language, that this idea of socialism in the context of America's rugged individualism and capitalism was difficult to sell. So what the late Frank Watkins and I did was we argued that these core values, in order to be accepted in our society, ought be constitutional rights. And therefore, I advocated for them as amendments to the Constitution of the United States. No one can call me un-American. No one can call me unpatriotic. I believe everyone should enjoy the constitutional right to health care of equal high quality. If it's health care for Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk at the highest quality, then it should be the same high quality health care for Mama Nem, for Pookie Nem. Whenever something happens to them in their neighborhoods, it ought to be available to them, because I don't judge their lives any different than I judge these American lives. So the language of the marketing of democratic socialism, why its value may be Christian, its marketing, Dr. Hendricks, for me at least, falls short and creates a reaction on the other side that leads to debate ad infinitum.
No, absolutely. I think you're right. I said that Mamdani was, he boldly declared he's a democratic socialist. I think in strategic terms, we don't need that name. I mean, democratic socialism, I mean, the values of it are timeless, right? And so what I heard you talking about was pushing the values, using political uh, strategy, political policies to bring those values to the fore, American people. And I think you're absolutely right. Um, but that's something that is not that's just not being done. And in America today, I think it's important to link those values to the biblical witness, since everybody claims that that they're serving the gospel. To be able to explain something as basic, first to help Christians see that on the social level, love your neighbor as yourself is the foremost social commandment by Jesus, and then to explain to them that it means what you're talking about. I think will go a very long way. I like what you're talking about, constitutional amendments and all that. And I don't want to, forgive me, I'm not pandering, but that's why it's so important to have people like you in Congress who understand these things. We have a lot of these folks who are elected. They don't read enough. They don't understand political theory enough. All they understand is politics. So I commend you 100% what you're saying.
I want to add this, that when I think Jesus makes this commandment to love your neighbor as yourself, we see it as an edict, if you will, a commandment, obviously from the Gospels themselves and from the word of Jesus himself, from the mouth of Jesus himself. But I don't think we see the economic plan or policy that it also represents.
Exactly.
We see I love my neighbor as myself as maybe helping an older lady across the street or cutting our neighbor's grass or taking their garbage out. No. It also means, hey, the guy next door needs care. And the way in which I provide them care is I pay taxes into the system, and home care ought to be available to them. And it is also a way of me loving my neighbor as myself. Yeah. And I feel good about it. I feel good about a public school in my community being like a public school in a more affluent community, because these are the children of my neighbor. And maybe the average American probably doesn't travel more than 60 miles past their home in a lifetime. Yeah. But for those of us who do, we see schools with Olympic-sized swimming pools. We see Olympic athletes in public schools being trained at young ages. But by the time we get, to our community, we're just so used to inferior schools and no public taxpayer.
No, you're absolutely right. And may I interject this, what you're saying? I mean, when you think about love your neighbor as yourself, it's really an economic and political edict. It's about rights, and it's about goods. It's about material goods. It's about having enough to eat. It's about having a decent life. And, we don't have to articulate in biblical terms necessarily only, but you're right. It's economic and it's political. I've written about it that way. This is if our economic system was based on egalitarianism, everybody having the right to be all right, recognizing everybody's created in the image of God, so that everyone should have the same opportunities to eat of the fruit of the tree of life. That's a whole nother thing. If we look at our politics that way, in terms of rights, in terms of freedom, everybody having access to the same rights and freedom, that's revolutionary.
Yes, it is.
But it's basic, and that's what our society is supposed to be about. But of course, we know it was never built on those kinds of principles, and that's what's difficult for us, because America was never meant to be a fully just society. And so you talk about the Constitution, man. The Constitution is a hard road to hoe when you talk about total egalitarian society.
You're listening to Moving Mountain Mondays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, more with one of the greatest minds of our era, Dr. Aubrey Hendricks, when we come forward.
The biggest names, the best conversations. You're riding with Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Misty Jordan with BIN News Now. The lobby of the Midtown Manhattan office building has reopened just 1 week after a gunman opened fire killing 4 people before turning the gun on himself. New Yorkers are reacting.
You got to keep it moving. Otherwise, people will never forget.
Profit is a necessary thing of business.
It's New York, so I won't say I'm surprised. I'm not even going to lie to you like I'm surprised.
NYPD police vehicles are posted up outside the building with uniform and plainclothes police officers standing guard. Former President Joe Biden says minority communities in the U.S. are under attack by the Trump administration. Biden says not since the 1960s, quote, has a fight been so existential, end quote. He added, quote, get ready, folks. This is just starting, end quote. And Chance the Rapper will drop his next album, Starline, next Friday. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams are facing another injury concern with quarterback Matthew Stafford. Stafford is planning to see a back specialist to get a better idea of the soreness he's been feeling in his back since the start of training camp last week. The 37-year-old Stafford has not participated in any of the Rams workouts at Loyola Marymount. At the moment, the Rams' backup quarterbacks are Jimmy Garoppolo and Stetson Bennett. The Rams have about a month to see if Stafford will be ready for their season opener September 7th against Houston at SoFi Stadium. The NCAA is not expanding its tournament bracket for men's and women's basketball. A proposal had been submitted to expand the field from 64 teams to 72 or 76 for the coming season. Top 5 schools in the preseason college football poll: Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, Georgia, and Notre Dame. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Whoa, whoa.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the voice of reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
During this time, it's important for everyone to know your rights. The 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments in the U.S. Constitution protects every one of us, regardless of immigration status. The 4th Amendment requires a judicial warrant to search your home. The 5th protects your right to remain silent. And the 6th gives you the right to an attorney. Just remember,
no warrant, no key, my privacy. You don't have to speak. No lawyer inside. Don't say a thing. Yeah, we all got rights.
Hey, we all got rights. Become a U.S. citizen with the help of the Los Angeles Public Library. Get free and confidential information on immigration and citizenship. Visit lapl.org/NAI to find your nearest library or call us at 213-228-7390. That's lapl.org/NAI or 213-228-7390 and start your path to becoming a U.S. citizen with the help of the Los Angeles Public Library. Call 213-228-7390 or visit lapl.org kpl.org/NAI.
Your child is 18, and suddenly you no longer have legal access to their medical info, even in an emergency. No health decisions, no financial help, nothing, unless you plan ahead. That's why Trust and Will created the Young Adult Plan. It includes HIPAA authorization, healthcare directives, and power of attorney. Everything your child needs to stay protected and stay connected. Go to trustandwill.com and get your Young Adult Plan for just $69. Because turning 18 shouldn't mean cutting parents out of the picture. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
Trust and Will.
Some things can steal your sunshine. Ugh, I just got my hair done.
Sorry, the cooler's broken. Anyone see my flip-flops? Anyone?
But COVID-19 can steal a lot more.
I just took a COVID test. Ugh.
Prescription medications for COVID exist. If you test positive this summer, ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com/COVID-19 to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. My very special guest is none other than Dr. Aubrey Hendricks. Hendricks' award-winning book, The Politics of Jesus, Rediscovering the True Revolutionary Nature of Jesus' Teaching and How They Have Been Corrupted, was declared essential reading for Americans by the Washington Post. Social commentator Michael Eric Dyson proclaimed it an instant classic that immediately thrust Hendricks into the front ranks of American religious thinkers. The Politics of Jesus was the featured subject of the 90-minute C-SPAN special hosted by the Center for American Progress, Class, Politics, and Christianity. The 10th anniversary of its publication was acknowledged at a major 2016 panel at the American Academy of Religion and its annual convention in San Antonio, Texas. Governor Howard Dean, former chairman of the Democratic National Committee, has called the book The Universe Bends Towards Justice, Radical Reflections on the Bible, the Church, and the Body Politic, a tour de force. Dr. Hendricks, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
I'm glad to be back. Glad to be back. May I make this point before we begin?
Of course you can.
Mention love your neighbor as yourself. I think it's important to note that every major religion and philosophical tradition has some form of that, of that ethic. Love your neighbor as yourself. So it's not, just it's not just a Christian ethic that we try to force on the nation. No, that's a universally recognized notion. The other thing is that justice is the most foundational biblical ethic. And in order to have real justice, and we talk about justice in the society, it has to be egalitarian. We have to want for our neighbors what we want for ourselves. I just wanted to mention that.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. I just want to press it a little bit further with you. Kamala Harris said to this generation, you're not a coconut that just dropped out of a tree and you're here. You're part of a history and a tradition. And given that Jesus's ministry was for 3 years, between age 30 and 33, he found himself tragically on a cross. He studied every religious and moral value and system before he offered his own interpretation and arrived at love your neighbor as yourself, therefore drawing from the various religious traditions that you're suggesting as fundamental to any civilized society.
Yeah. He drew on the saying in Leviticus, repurposed it and gave it a more universal meaning. You're right, and there seems to be some evidence that he did study elsewhere, not just Egypt, but some say as far away as Tibet. During those 18 missing years of the Bible. But be that as it may, you're right. His message, if you take all the doctrinal stuff away, it's a universal message. It's an ethical message. Jesus was an ethical teacher more than anything else. He taught people how to live in a just and loving way. And I think that's what we have to stress in our public witness. Mm-hmm.
Dr. Hendricks, let me, if I can pivot to Howard Thurman for a moment. From your perspective, and given that so much of your work really builds upon Howard Thurman, and it's hard to improve upon Howard Thurman, but if there ever was a work that does, uniquely, it is the work that you have prayed over, that you've thought about and given great reflection to, and that is must reading, according to the Washington Post, for all Americans. My question for you is this. What would Howard Thurman say today about a nation of people whose backs are against the wall?
Yeah. So interesting. When Howard Thurman wrote Jesus and the Disinherited, which was really, it presupposed liberation theology, and certainly for us biblical scholars, it was way ahead of what only started for us, I guess, in the 70s or so. He recognized that Jesus' message was about supporting and freeing and providing for the marginalized, those disinherited by society. But Howard Thurman would stress the importance of love, though, a term that's never used by the right wing ever. And for the progressive Christian side, it's mostly used in a sentimental way. But he would stress that we have to really struggle to have a loving society, I think. And if you love someone, you want them to be whole. You want them to be healthy. So I think that Howard Thurman would stress something that is missing in this nation, and certainly missing in most of the church. And that is a focus on interiority, on dealing with what Paul calls the Christ within, or inner spirituality, which includes meditation and quietude, like Jesus modeled in Luke 4:1 following, where he went out in the desert by himself. And he prepared himself, through solitude, through fasting, through thirst, through meditation, through contemplation, through struggle against all temptations. Only after that could he stand up and say in 4:18, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because He's anointed me to preach good news to the poor." So because he did that inner work, though, that engaged spiritual ministrations. And I think Howard Thurman, I know he would be stressing that we need to get away from all this external titillation stuff and all this false, speaking in tongues, and this new fad of everybody, supposedly doing the holy dance. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't know exactly what's holy about it. It doesn't transform anything in this world. I think he would want us to really to be substantively concerned with transforming ourselves and our society from within, even while we dealt with all the contradictions from without. And that, of course, we see almost nowhere in this society.
There is I know that we have about 2 minutes left in this particular segment, and we have another segment after this, and hopefully you'll stay with us with Dr. Teresa Hord Owens for part of the program and then into the next hour. I do want to ask this question, however, about the need for suffering leadership, leadership that has the capacity to suffer. Because obviously once the big, bad, ugly bill becomes the law after the midterms, there's going to be a lot of pain in our community. And I have the sneaking suspicion that one of the reasons the polling numbers of the Democrats is so low is that they're speaking to people at the level of scholarship and philosophy, but they are truly not feeling the pain of people. It's almost as if our leaders are without suffering. They've got all kinds of ideas. They're all giving speeches. They're all doing podcasts, but no one is suffering. And Dr. King taught us, I think, that suffering was a factor in the quality and caliber of his leadership.
Yeah. And I'd like to add the term sacrifice to that. Few people willingly submit to to suffering. But have to be willing to put themselves on the line. And I've wondered about that. I've wondered about the courage of Democratic. Well, I say Democratic senators, but those who oppose anyone who opposes the evil of the Trump fascism. I'm wondering why they're not, sitting in, why they're not disrupting. Why we're not seeing folk who are really whose actions are commensurate with the terror of the threat that we're dealing with. So no, we need folk like Dr. King, like your father, like others who, and I always love C.T. Vivian, willingness. We need folk who are willing to put themselves out there, not looking to be hurt, but who are so engaged and so taken by their commitment to justice that they're willing to take a chance. And we don't see anything like that. That's one thing I respect about Mamzani. He has not backed off when he's been threatened. when everybody, all the mayoral candidates were saying, well, my first trip will be to Israel. And, they're like, they ain't going to Israel, man. But Mamdani was honest. He said, no, my job is here. But our politicians are they're not statesmen. They're politicians. And I think it's that they're so afraid of losing their jobs and their perks. As you know, there are all kinds of perks being senators and Congress.
We're going to come right back to that after this break. This is Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580 with Dr. Aubrey Hendricks.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
You have cancer. The 3 words no one wants to hear. Of the cancers that impact our community, lung cancer is the most dangerous. More people succumb to lung cancer than colon, breast, and prostate combined. Black men are 12% more likely to develop lung cancer, and cases for Black women are rising. Early detection and comprehensive treatment is the best way to beat this dreaded disease. Providence is a research leader in multi-cancer early detection, offering blood tests that identify fast-spreading cancers that don't show symptoms in early stages. The Providence Los Angeles Integrated Network Cancer Program determines best protocols for each patient, interacting with specialists who share experiences, perspectives, and new findings specific to each case. With over 1,000 board-certified physicians, including top oncologists, surgeons, radiologists, and nurse specialists, Providence delivers whole-person care that understands your culture, values, preferences, and priorities. So, if you hear the words, "you have cancer," all you need is faith and providence.org/cancer.
During this time, it's important for everyone to know your rights. The 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments in the U.S. Constitution protects every one of us, regardless of immigration status. The 4th Amendment requires a judicial warrant to search your home. The 5th protects your right to remain silent, and the 6th gives you the right to an attorney. Just remember,
No warrant, no key. My privacy. You don't have to speak. No lawyer inside. Don't say a thing. Yeah, we all got rights.
Hey, we all got rights. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Paul's new drone startup just lost its most genius computer scientist.
We just lost our best genius to some new genius who's got a genius new idea. I'm going to have to find a new genius or 2 half geniuses and fast.
He needs a computer scientist that can keep his startup from falling down.
I need Indeed.
Indeed, you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, it's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome to Moving Mountain Mondays. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest is the world-renowned biblical scholar, Dr. Aubrey Hendricks. Dr. Hendricks, during the break, I looked at our Facebook page to find out why my video was being blocked in 2 different locations. I touched upon it, and it said I'm being blocked in Belarus and Russia. Like I really give a hoot. Anyway, Dr. Hendricks, we are not on in Belarus and Russia, but the rest of the world, we're everywhere.
I'm so disappointed.
I know, right? Dr. Hendricks, let me pivot to the domestic political scene and what it represents for our nation's spiritual energy and growth in this hour. So much emanates from the very top. I'd like to use the term the 4 carpenters or the timbers that Abraham Lincoln referred to in the House Divided speech, where he talked about how Roger Taney and James and Stevens had agreed upon a common plan, but clearly he could not prove a conspiracy. But when they all came together, the Supreme Court, the presidency, the Congress of the United States, and now the governors seem to be conspiring against, well, Dr. Hendricks, if I'm honest, just about everything you've ever fought for.
Yeah, no, it's true, and that's why I constantly decry this as an onslaught of systematic evil that is no less dangerous in intent than Nazi Germany. Well, it's less dangerous because Trump apparently is not looking to exterminate a lot of American citizens, but looking to remove so many people of color nonetheless and subjugate the rest of us. Removing the rights that people have died for, rights that we have had over a century, all of that. I think I lost the thread of your question. I got a little carried away there.
Oh, no, not a problem. The basic concern that I raised was that the focus of the administration seems to be undermining everything, sir.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
For it that you believe in.
Oh, no, absolutely. It's totally against justice. It's against right, against everything right. I mean, it is evil. It's evil in that it purposely hurts and destroys innocent people, innocent children. But there's nothing more evil than purposely hurting innocent people, destroying them, trying to hide our history from our children, outlawing Black history from black children, forcing 12-year-old rape visions to carry children to term, and they care more about the unborn than they do about the already born. They don't give a damn about the people struggling in this society. This is as evil as it gets, and and I think I can speak for many people. We couldn't have imagined just a few years ago that this would happen in America. We thought we were special. Well, we're not special, and if we're not careful, in a few years, much less a decade, we will no longer have any vestige of democracy.
Dr. Hendricks, do you see any hope on the political horizon? I've listened carefully to the prospective Democratic candidates and, if you will, alternative candidates who seek a new era after Donald Trump. It just doesn't seem like Humpty Dumpty is going to be able to be put back together again.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I think we need a new movement. I think that people like, well, not just like Mamdani, but the kind of sentiment that is causing people to support folks like Mamdani. I think we're just going to have to work to make to build a new kind of movement, to articulate a different kind of political vision, and to try to broaden that. And we have to elect officials like yourself who are articulate and who are can articulate what justice means and who are dedicated to fighting for it. But brother, I don't know, man. We're losing right now. We are losing, and I don't know. I mean, you have someone like Gavin Newsom. I don't know. I mean, he's, I mean, to me, he's not perfect. I don't even look. I don't know who I'd want to run against these people. I think our greatest hope is that, in political terms, Trump is destroyed, somehow discredited. People come to see his lies, come to see that he was engaged in pedophilia. Maybe that'll bring him down. Then we have to deal with Vance, who is just as evil. Trumpism is going to rule this country for a while, it looks like, unless we do something very different. But we have to remember that's how, in the 60s, folk really radicals arose to fight things, and there was a lot of death. But I think there's going to be a radical movement. There's got to be a real reaction to this, and I'm afraid it's going to have to include violence.
I'm struck by that conclusion that almost everything I've ever been taught and everything I've ever prayed for is that violence would never be a resort, but the conditions could reach, and we've seen evidence of it in even a story that's on CNN right now about an Afghan man who helped American soldiers in Afghanistan, and he was, I guess, not long ago, killed in Texas. The man who killed him has not been arrested, but it seems to be because he was a foreigner. And now Green Berets, whose lives he's saved, are now stepping forward saying, wait a minute, we are here today because this man helped us dismantle bombs in Afghanistan. That some elements of this movement are going too far. And I refuse to accept that it is the radical left that, sees a different constitutional value is solely responsible. Some of this requires the kind of leadership at the very top of our nation that we have not seen. Dr. Hendricks, we have about 2 more minutes left in this portion of our program. Of course, you'll be with us with Dr. Teresa Hord Owens in part of the next hour. But in these 2 minutes, could you give us a word of hope?
Well, the hope I see is that this younger generation is open to a new vision. When you have a generation that's open to socialism, the majority of them, according to polls, that's very hopeful, not just in terms of socialism, but the fact that they're willing to question things as they are. That's my hope. I don't have a lot of hope that the churches are going to make a difference, though they should. I don't have a lot of hope that the Democratic Party is going to make a big difference till it's pushed. But I'm hoping that young people will start a new movement. Will get more involved, get more and more horrified by what they see, like we did in the 60s, and start pushing forward. And then, I'm very hopeful people like Raphael Warnock. He's starting to speak out more and more. People like him, we need more of that. Even Cory Booker is getting out there. When we get more people like you in office, we might have a chance.
That's very kind of you. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is Moving Mountain Mondays. When we come forward, Dr. Teresa Hord Owens will be our host, and Reverend Dr. Aubrey Hendricks will be joining us in that conversation when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Misty Jordan with BIN News Now. The lobby of the Midtown Manhattan office building has reopened just 1 week after a gunman opened fire, killing 4 people before turning the gun on himself. New Yorkers are reacting.
You got to keep it moving. Otherwise, people will never forget. Profit is a necessary thing of business.
It's New York, so I won't say I'm surprised. I'm not even going to lie to you like I'm surprised.
NYPD police vehicles are posted up outside the building with uniform and plainclothes police officers standing guard. Former President Joe Biden says minority communities in the U.S. are under attack by the Trump administration. Biden says not since the 1960s, quote, has a fight been so existential, end quote. He added, quote, get ready, folks. This is just starting, end quote. And Chance the Rapper will drop his next album, Starline, next Friday. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams are facing another injury concern with quarterback Matthew Stafford. Stafford is planning to see a back specialist to get a better idea of the soreness he's been feeling in his back since the start of training camp last week. The 37-year-old Stafford has not participated in any of the Rams workouts at Loyola Marymount. At the moment, the Rams' backup quarterbacks are Jimmy Garoppolo and Stetson Bennett. The Rams have about a month to see if Stafford will be ready for their season opener September 7th against Houston at SoFi Stadium. The NCAA is not expanding its tournament bracket for men's and women's basketball. A proposal had been submitted to expand the field from 64 teams to 72 or 76 for the coming season. Top 5 schools in the preseason college football poll: Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, Georgia, and Notre Dame. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we aim to foster enlightening, sustainable, restorative dialogue, and we welcome unapologetically progressive viewpoints that empower fellow citizens. We are now accepting submissions for KBLA Talk 1580 guest editorials like this one.
With the KBLA Talk 1580 guest editorial, I'm Martin Gordon, chair of the Pasadena Community Coalition. Recently, I listened to a Tavis Smiley Show conversation with James Farr. James said something that caught me off guard. Black out Dina is gone. My community is being murdered. I said murdered.
All you have to do is go to our website homepage at kbla1580.com and click on the icon that says KBLA Guest Editorials to learn more about our editorial standards and content submission guidelines. As long as the topic aligns with our mission, we are happy to review your submission and consider it for broadcast. We can't make any promises, but we want to amplify progressive perspectives that are community-focused and solution-oriented. So go to KBLA1580.com right now to download all the information you need about our guest editorials. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Welcome forward to Moving Mountain Mondays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. In this hour, our very special host and regular host, Teresa Hord Owens, is the president and general minister of the Disciples of Christ in Canada and the U.S. Reverend Teresa Hord Owens joins our show in this particularly special hour because one of the great biblical scholars of our time, Dr. Aubrey Hendricks, is our very special guest. Dr. Owens, welcome forward to your show, The Faith Not to Fall. How are you this morning? Good afternoon.
I'm doing well. Thoroughly enjoyed hearing the conversation between you and Dr. Hendricks, somebody whose work I've read and studied and admire a great deal. So it's exciting to join this conversation.
Yes, Dr. Hendricks is not going to be with us as long as I would love for him to be, but Dr. Owens, I would love for you to engage him in this segment of our show.
I was just kind of taking some notes. My own work is focused on, and I lead, just for context, Christian Church Disciples of Christ is a mainline denomination, predominantly white, 80% white, 10% black, 6-7% Hispanic, and maybe 2 to 3% Asian Pacific Islander. It considers itself in spaces to be more progressive, but 2 points that you made. In terms of loving your neighbor as yourself, as being the great social commandment, the great social rule that should be governing our lives and how we respond, and the great ethic by which we should live our lives. And you said, my dad's a retired Afro-American studies professor, taught at Knox College for over 30 years. And you said, people don't read enough.
Pardon me?
Don't read enough. You said people don't read enough.
Oh, yes.
I think this is true in my context, coming out of a Black church tradition. It's one thing that in a mainline space that I'm often, people will assume that you are conservative simply because you are promoting an engagement with the text, be it critical or otherwise. I'm never promoting a dogmatic or a purely a doctrinal engagement, but a critical one. But we don't know our text. We don't know our history. We're not paying attention to the things that are going on in the world. So we either err, I think, on the side of personal piety being the only thing that matters, and the church needs to stay out of these particular issues, or we have, and I lead some of these folks, somebody called them justice-loving social activist atheists, who understand the right thing to do, but in their faith journey have not been able to really understand and make the connection that the power that we have in that moment is because it is this ethic, not only of Jesus, but every major religious tradition has something akin to loving your neighbor or treating others as you would treat. So what really resonated me was this insistence, number one, that we don't read enough, we don't know enough in order to be able to articulate these things. And also not being afraid to call what's going on evil. We have a lot of church folks that don't want to use that word, right? We don't want to stand in judgment to those things. And I think the power of an ethical and faith witness is to name a thing. You can't fix a thing unless you name a thing. So those 2 things that I think have stood out. And Jesse, my own writing is just about this core ethic of love. And those 2 things, I say I have a 2-plank platform, spiritual practice and biblical literacy. From those things come all of the work that we need to do as both citizens of the United States and people of faith, particularly with a Christian ethic. But I, again, would argue that there isn't a single religious tradition that doesn't advocate that you know the text, but that you also are operating in an ethic that says what you want for your neighbor is also what you want for yourself.
Can I Teresa, let me add this, because I know we're going to have Dr. Hendricks for just a few more minutes. But
I'm going to try to hang in there.
You're welcome to hang in here with us all you like. But let me just share with you that there was a particular compelling part of the Politics of Jesus, which has 1,000 compelling parts in it. But there was one part, if I remember correctly, where Dr. Hendricks said, we're going to have to call this demon by its name. Now, we're going to have to give it a title. We're going to have to paint some horns on it. We're going to have to visualize what this thing is. We're not just going to keep calling it politics. Today, Dr. Hendricks, you called it by name. You said it's evil.
That's right.
It's evil. I mean, and we have to define what we mean by evil. It's not just enough to say, well, this is evil. No, it's evil because it hurts innocent people. It does not respect the integrity of human beings, and that we're all made in the image of God. I mean, we have to say that. And what Jesus did was interesting. He in Mark 5, he made it clear. He had the demon reveal itself for what it is. It was evil. The demon was legion, the Roman legions. That was what messed the people up. But we're not really doing that. And Reverend Owens, and I know we share this. This focus on entertainment and jumping up and down and all around and all this. This is supposed to be the gospel. It's killing our people. Our people are dying while Negro preachers are running around and being entertainers.
Amen.
I mean,
Amen.
This is sad, and we have to call that evil out also. These lazy, and I mean, look, I'm ordained, and I have a lot of good friends that are wonderful, wonderful pastors, seriously. But you know, some of them are just lazy. They don't read, like you're saying. They don't read. How can you say that you are supposed to be the shepherd of the sheep, and you don't even know what, you don't even take time to really understand what forces are destroying the sheep's peace of mind and their health and their security. You know, so I mean, we're in a big fight.
That's right.
And I'm so glad to hear what you're saying. And interesting enough, is the white denominations, not of course the Christo-fascists, the white denominations that are doing most of the studying and that are articulating, unfortunately, that are articulating the kind of things that have to be articulated. Oh man, I'm sorry. It really burns up the way these Negro preachers.
That's a pause for station identification.
I'm with you, Dr. Hendricks. I'm with you all the way on that.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to Moving Mountain Mondays with Reverend Dr. Teresa Hord Owens. Our very special guest is none other than Dr. Aubrey Hendricks. When we come forward, more on KBLA Talk 1580 on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
An official message from Medicare.
I turned 65 this year. I knew it was time to figure out Medicare, and I had questions like when to enroll and how to enroll. So I went straight to the official source, Medicare.gov, to get the facts about Medicare. I found answers to all my questions, and I'm ready to get started. And so can you. Just go to Medicare.gov to get the real facts about Medicare.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love, guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay, things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Do Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms keep coming back? Tremfya, guselkumab, may help, with rapid remission achieved at 12 weeks and lasting clinical remission at 1 year. Some even saw visible improvement of their intestinal lining at 12 weeks and 1 year. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active Crohn's disease and adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Healing is possible with Tremfya. Approximately 3 out of 10 patients were in endoscopic remission at 1 year, based on areas visualized on colonoscopy, which may not represent the deeper bowel layer or entire GI tract. Individual results may vary. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
Hey, it's Matt, your leaf filter trusted pro. Gutters are an often neglected part of the home. They're also one of the most important. Clogged, overflowing gutters can cause serious problems like foundation damage or basement flooding, which can cost thousands of dollars to fix. Let's face it, cleaning gutters yourself is not only a hassle, it can be dangerous. But when you get Leaf Filter, you'll never have to worry about cleaning clogged gutters again. Get started today by visiting leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free inspection. If you decide to move forward, we'll professionally clean, realign, and seal your gutters before installing our patented stainless steel micro mesh system. Leaf Filter keeps out everything but the water. And it's backed by a lifetime transferable no clogs warranty. So you're protected for good. We're in your neighborhood, ready to help. Visit Leaf Filter today for a free inspection and estimate, and you could save up to 30%. Visit leaffilter.com/deal. That's leaffilter.com/deal.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is Moving Mountain Mondays, where our very special guest, Reverend Dr. Teresa Horde Owens, is our regular host on Moving Mountain Mondays, The Faith Not to Fall. And we have been blessed with one of the nation's leading biblical scholars, Dr. Aubrey Hendricks. Dr. Teresa Horde Owens is the president and general minister of the Disciples of Christ in Canada and the United States. She joins our show on More Than Christian Experience. Her new book, Staying at the Table, scheduled to be released this past July 12th, which serves as a push for all believers to shun the hypocrisy that critics may assign to the church in exchange for a unity born from love, a vision to talk, to serve, to work together, to fight for the cause of Jesus. Dr. Owens, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on your show.
Oh, thank you, Congressman. It's always good to be with you. And always, every week, there's something exciting happening in this conversation. So.
And our very special guest is none other than Dr. Aubrey Hendricks. Dr. Aubrey Hendricks is the author of a number of books that include The Politics of Jesus, The Arc of Justice Bends Towards Justice, Christians Against Christianity, so many wonderful works. But both of you together in this moment, at least for me, I consider this to be one of the best shows I've ever done. Both of you are reframing Christian witness in the era of Donald Trump. And I can't think of a more propitious moment to reframe Christian witness, Dr. Owens, than this moment, because we have to reflect upon what our faith has become and whether or not we are true activists in it. I heard Cornel West say earlier today, don't forget about the cross. Don't forget about the cross, that there is some sacrifice, that there is potentially, as Dr. Hendricks suggests, some death that may be part of this process before we can resurrect ourselves. Dr. Owens?
You know, I think in the American context and in my work, you know, both internationally, as you know, I was just in South Africa about a month ago with the World Council of Churches, and European, South American, and African Christians asking me about what's going on in the United States. And I always tell people, you cannot look at the United States without understanding its history of colonialism and racism. And that extends in that Christianity has been a tool of this colonial nature since before Columbus stumbled across what he thought was India. And it still guides how we talk. Unless we change this narrative, we are still, you know, I talk about staying at the table. This is, you know, if we don't unpack the colonialism that's tied to this sense of love and unity, we will think, oh, I'm letting you in. But what you're not saying is you're letting me into a situation that you still control. So once we recognize that the faith that we practice is not your institution or my institution, it's not my table, it's the table of the Lord, at which Jesus disrupts systems. Jesus disrupts in the very act of establishing the Lord's Supper, disrupts those systems and creates a new covenant, a new egalitarian, we've been using that word, a playing field for all, and one that is not dependent on any one of us deciding what is right, what is best, what is legitimate. Unity can't just be this situation where we're falling into some sort of Eurocentric norm or even a Christian norm. It has to value the humanity that God has created in all of us, recognizing we each are enough, and that no one of us gets to tell the other of us that we're not included in this story, in this profound need, and everybody needs to eat. That's my evangelism platform. Jesus, I want you to know that this Jesus wants you to eat, to have education, to have healthcare, to have a safe, affordable a place to live. But we've got to always unpack on the American context that history of colonialism and racism, or we're just papering over cracks in the wall and we're not really shifting the narrative as it needs to shift.
Dr. Hendricks, Dr. King reportedly said to Harry Belafonte in one of his last communications that a great level of disappointment, that I feel like I have asked my people to integrate, and I think I heard Dr. Teresa Horde Owens touch upon it, integrate into a burning house.
Yeah, Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, and what I also heard implied in her very important comments that that we have to talk about systemic change. You know, you're right. I mean, it's not just insinuating ourselves better into an unjust system. And Jesus pointed to that in Luke 4:18, said the Spirit of the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the poor, which is about systemic change. I mean, it's not the prosperity anti-gospel where some folks become rich and others still stay poor. That's about systemic change, and that's something that is not being talked about enough. And a lot of it's because of capitalist hegemony, which says that capitalism is natural, and that that there's no better system, which so many politicians and economic commentators have said is propagandistic. We don't know what a new system would be, but we don't need to know. We know there needs to be a new system. And but lastly, what I also liked about Dr. Hord's comment is that Jesus' message is basically an ethical message, and we can stress that the ethics of that message throughout the world without talking about any doctrines at all, offending anyone at all. That's why when you talked about the atheist for justice, Jesus' message is because he was an ethical teacher of ethics. It's all about justice. It's all about building a new kind of world, a world based on love and total respect for each person's humanity and integrity, and an egalitarian society. And that's one of the problems with our churches and with Christianity these days. Preachers will go on for days about without vision of people will perish and all of that, and they come up with a vision for building a new expensive church. But the right wing showed us what vision is when they articulated Project 2025. That is their vision for the kind of society we want. Well, what kind of vision are we articulating in the church? And we need to have our own Project 2026 or 27, 28, saying what kind of education system we want, what kind of political policies we want on down the line, and also and be open to some vision of socialism or some other kind of economic approach that is based on what's best for humanity rather than for the few.
One of the reasons I argued for constitutional rights in A More Perfect Union, 9 of them, is one, they're not easy to attain. They're so difficult to attain that it requires 2/3 of the Congress and 3/4 of the states to approve them if we agree that that's the value. And on the spiritual side, to which I pose this question to both of you, Gina, who recently graduated from Princeton Theological Seminary, the executive producer and the creator of our program, she says that the Christianity of liberation theology is a Christianity, Dr. Hendricks, Dr. Owens, that adds. It adds life.
Yeah.
It adds something to the least of these.
Yeah.
The Christianity of the evangelicals seems to be taking away. It seems to be a subtraction. No more of this for you unless you do this. No more of this for you unless you do that. No Medicaid unless the Secretary of Agriculture is now saying unless you're willing to replace illegal immigrants in a field picking tomatoes, lettuce, and tobacco. Now, that is not adding to their lives. It is actually creating a new form of slavery by taking away from their lives in exchange for a basic level of human subsistence.
It's death dealing. It's death dealing. And you're right about slavery. I mean, we're going to see heightened criminalization, and we're going to see more and more convicted people out in the fields working. And right, it's going to be slavery by another name. And that is part of their vision. They know what they are doing and their assaults on education and all of that. They're trying to expand an underclass, create a larger underclass that'll be akin to slavery. Dr. Owens, that's why it's so scary. Our people don't have a sense, and our preachers aren't protecting the sheep. Got to say, look, they need to be out here saying, look, your children might end up working in the fields or incarcerated for something they never did. So that the privatized jail folk can make more profits. This is a horribly dangerous time.
Yeah. And we're more concerned about, as you said earlier, the new building we're going to build, filling the seats. Will people watch? Will people contribute to the offering? Instead of focusing on those things, this is what is life-giving, right? Because we can profess Jesus and still be starving, right? And Jesus didn't intend it for it to be there, to stop there. My husband's a music minister. He talks about the dangerous act of worship as the process of preparing us for battle, not the end all be all, but the way in which we prepare ourselves for battle under a banner of this ethical teacher that we say we follow. And so any lens that we have on anything that's inclusive versus exclusive, anytime anyone is using a lens of interpretation on scripture or anything else really theologically that's exclusive, when you are trying to draw the line to decide who's in and who's out, then you're yielding yourself and your power to something else that has more to do with you and a form of institutional power than it has to do with the real good news that Jesus came to proclaim. There can be no allowing. John Lewis says in his in Walking with the Wind, none of us has the right to ignore the spark of divinity that's in each human person. None of us has the right to say that you are not worth having what I have. None of us has the right to do that. And for me, it's just that basic. And if your Christianity isn't leading you down that path, then what's the scripture say? You have a form of godliness. You don't have the real thing. It's a form, and you're just playing with us. You're playing.
I just want to add to that if I went right down Dr. Teresa Hord Owens's litany, no one wants to be crucified. No one wants to be in a fiery furnace. No one wants to step up and throw a rock upside the head of Goliath. I mean, you go right down every biblical character that is preached about on Sunday morning, and no one wants to be that guy or that lady. No one wants to be facing the crowd with rocks potentially thrown at them because of their criminal offense. No one wants to accept the burden of what it means to be a biblical character in the present. They kind of look at the book, they read it as some kind of nonfiction account of something that's going on in their heads, but it doesn't, Dr. Hendricks, lead to a beating when you cross the Selma to the Edmund Pettus Bridge. It doesn't lead to Jimmy Lee Jackson's sacrifice. It doesn't lead to almost James Orange's lynching in Marion, Alabama. It does not lead to 4 students sitting in at a lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina on February 1st, 1960. I mean, it doesn't lead to Emmett Till. Everyone has chosen a comfortable way out of what is obvious. We're waiting for someone else to die for us, but we ain't trying to die.
Yeah. Well, I think I've shared this with you before. I grew up in the Black Cultural Nationalist Movement in Newark, New Jersey, with Amiri Baraka from the time I was in my mid-teens, and it was an extraordinary experience because.
By the way, his daughter is on KBLA. His daughter, Dominique, is on KBLA 6 to 9 every morning, Monday through Friday on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm sorry, Dr. Hendricks, I did not mean to cut you off, but you mentioned.
So one thing that was so important. I mean, that I noticed that all these young people, we were willing to die for what we believed in, but that is a function of being young. Young people have the energy, but they also don't know what living is, and
they don't know enough.
And they have that bravery. I had no idea what was ahead me in life. What I thought I'd do is die and get on a poster, what's that young brother from the Black Panthers that was on the poster?
Huey Newton.
Huey Newton.
Fred Hampton, one of them.
No, it was Real Young Brother. But anyway, so
Doc,
it's a
I got
generational thing. We have
Doc,
to look at the young people.
I got a post for station identification. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. This is the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're Moving Mountain Mondays with Teresa Hort Owens on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, more with Dr. Aubrey Hendricks and Teresa Hort Owens.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Misty Jordan with BIN News Now. It is back to school season, and the Cleveland Clinic is offering tips on getting children back into an earlier sleep schedule. Sleep specialist Dr. Brian Chin advises parents to start gradually getting children to bed earlier.
And if you start trying to scoot it back now, it will be a gradual scooting back instead of a cold turkey flip back to school time, which could be really rough for that first week of school.
A black man charged in connection with a violent brawl in downtown Cincinnati, Ohio, appeared in court. Dominic Kittle was charged with felonious assault and aggravated riot for allegedly hitting a man in the face, knocking him unconscious. Kittle is being held on a $100,000 bond. His attorney says the victim called his client the N-word before he was struck. And former NFL player Cam Newton is pushing for ESPN to give HBCUs the game day spotlight. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Is this the tackle? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams are facing another injury concern with quarterback Matthew Stafford. Stafford is planning to see a back specialist to get a better idea of the soreness he's been feeling in his back since the start of training camp last week. The 37-year-old Stafford has not participated in any of the Rams workouts at Loyola Marymount. At the moment, the Rams' backup quarterbacks are Jimmy Garoppolo and Stetson Bennett. The Rams have about a month to see if Stafford will be ready for their season opener September 7th against Houston at SoFi Stadium. The NCAA is not expanding its tournament bracket for men's and women's basketball. A proposal had been submitted to expand the field from 64 teams to 72 or 76 for the coming season. Top 5 schools in the preseason college football poll: Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, Georgia, and Notre Dame. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Become a U.S. citizen with the help of the Los Angeles Public Library. Get free and confidential information on immigration and citizenship. Visit lapl.org/NAI to find your nearest library or call us at 213-228-7390. That's lapl.org/NAI or 213-228-7390 and start your path to becoming a U.S. citizen with the help of the Los Angeles Public Library. Call 213-228-7390 or visit lapl.org/NAI.
During this time, it's important for everyone to know your rights. The 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments in the U.S. Constitution protects every one of us, regardless of immigration status. The 4th Amendment requires a judicial warrant to search your home. The 5th protects your right to remain silent, and the 6th gives you the right to an attorney. Just remember,
No warrant, no key. My privacy. You don't have to speak. No lawyer inside. Don't say a thing. Yeah, we all got rights.
Hey, we all got rights. Your child is 18, and suddenly you no longer have legal access to their medical info, even in an emergency. No health decisions, no financial help, nothing, unless you plan ahead. That's why Trust and Will created the Young Adult Plan. It includes HIPAA authorization, healthcare directives, and power of attorney. Everything your child needs to stay protected and stay connected. Go to trustandwill.com and get your Young Adult Plan for just $69. Because turning 18 shouldn't mean cutting parents out of the picture. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
Trust and Will.
Some things can steal your sunshine.
Ugh, I just got my hair done.
Sorry, the cooler's broken. Anyone see my flip-flops? Anyone?
But COVID-19 can steal a lot more.
I just took a COVID test. Ugh.
Prescription medications for COVID exist. If you test positive this summer, ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com/COVID-19 to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Moving Mountain Mondays, where our very special presenter, guest, host is always the President and General Minister of the Disciples of Christ in Canada and the U.S., Reverend Dr. Teresa Hord Owens. She is the author of a brand new book called Staying at the Table, which serves as a push for all believers to shun the hypocrisy that critics may assign to the church in exchange for a unity born from love, a vision to talk, to serve, to work together, to fight for the cause of Jesus of Nazareth. And we are also blessed to have in our presence a lifelong social activist, one of the leading biblical scholars in the nation, if not the world. Dr. Aubrey Hendricks is our very special guest in this hour. Welcome forward to the Teresa Hord Owens, the Faith Not to Fall part of our program. Dr. Hendricks, welcome forward.
Yes, glad to be here.
Dr. Hendricks, I think I cut you off just before the break, but I do want to allow you the opportunity to finish that thought and then turn the questioning back over to Dr. Teresa Hord Owens because she is such an amazing contributor to this program, bringing life and vitality to the word and why we should continue to fight to stay at the table.
Yeah,
Dr.
and I'm so very happy and impressed by her being the president of that denomination. I mean, I'm quite a fan. I was just saying that young people, it's a generational thing. Young people have the energy, and they don't have the baggage and the responsibilities yet of generations ahead of them. So I mean, so I'm not going to be too hard on folks who are of a later generation who aren't putting their bodies on the line like young people, but because I'm not ready to do that anymore. I can't march for miles anymore like I used to. I was a competitive martial artist. I wasn't afraid of mixing it up. Now, brother, no. It's like, you know what I'm saying? So that's all I'm saying. It's a generation. And we have to support our young people and get them more and more involved. And that's why we need to be less doctrinaire, particularly the church, about Christianity. And that's why I like Dr. Owens' comment about ethics, that we just can stress the ethical underpinnings of our message. Our message is about justice, not just us. Everybody can relate to that. Everybody can relate to having a fully equal and egalitarian society. And if we would do that and stop acting, being more holy than Jesus, man, we just got to use all the lingo all the time. Let's just build a happy, healthy world for everybody and then let folk believe what they want to believe,
Mhm.
as long as it's not destructive to anyone else.
Yeah, yeah. Dr. Hendricks, we've talked on this program with great people like Ernest Krim, who's a used to be a public school teacher here in the Chicago area and is focused on ensuring that younger generations know their history. What do you think younger generations need to know, and what do we, those of us who are of a certain age, are there models, examples you've seen where we're bringing younger people along to both engage them in the fight, but also to engage our faith in a more ethical and authentic kind of way?
Yeah. One thing I think is important, and this might just be because I'm a Democratic socialist, but the tradition of Black Christian socialism from the early 20th century is really inspiring for young people, to learn about. When I teach my students about George Washington Woodbey, this preacher who was so brave, so courageous, and he went out on the corners and he was preaching building an egalitarian society. I think these are important models. I think maybe I'm dating myself, but I think that every student should see C.T. Vivian on the steps of the courthouse.
Yeah.
When he continues, he speaks with such eloquence, and then when he's struck and he knows he's still in harm's way, he continues to stand up and speak. These things were very, 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 very inspirational for me, and I think would be for others. And also, Reverend Jesse Jackson, I got to say, after he brought back Flight Lieutenant Goodman from Syria, and they're in the Rose Garden, and he bogarts the mic from Reagan. Reagan, they didn't want him to speak because they didn't want him to get any juice. Reagan stood back, and Reverend Jackson stood up and bogarted the mic. Now that was inspiring for me. These are kind of moments that our people should see. Yeah, I told your father, man. I still get around thinking about that. That's like, man, nobody has more nerve than Jesse Jackson. Nobody has more courage, more nerve than Jesse Jackson. These things young people need to see. And let me just say this, and you might remember this, Brother Jackson, that when I set up an event at Columbia University to honor your father, and he and Cornell West in public dialogue, but in my introduction, when I told them some of the things that he had done, and then in this conversation with Cornell, these young people were so energized to know that, but they didn't know it. To know that. At the time, Bernie Sanders was running for president. I'm not saying Bernie Sanders' platform, other than talking about South Africa, is exactly Jesse Jackson's platform for 20 years before. These young people are energized. So these are kinds of things I think we should lift up for our young people.
Reverend Owens?
Yeah, I think when you say we don't read enough, we don't have this sense of history. I spent about 12 years as the Dean of Students at the University of Chicago Divinity School, and I remember having some conversations with undergraduates maybe 10, 15 years ago. And we were having a conversation about the role of the Black church dealing with the HIV/AIDS pandemic. And there were some staff from Trinity United Church of Christ there, and me and some other, Dwight Hopkins, who's a theologian at the University of Chicago, happened to be my advisor. But the young people at the time were saying, well, the time is over for marching. You all did that, way back when. And they weren't in that. I think this was a season of not being willing to engage, and maybe it's not willing to be engaged in the sacrifice or suffering, or simply dismissing the tools and the tactics of that time and moment as though, oh, we don't have to do that anymore. We don't have to fight in that same way. So without history, without a memory of who we've been, we don't even know where we need to go. And I think that history is so important, particularly for young Black people, to understand the history of what has been done, of what is possible. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a more organized, effective boycott than Montgomery.
You know, can I ask
I don't.
let me ask a question, Dr.
Okay.
Owens, because we've got about a minute and 45 seconds before the break, but very, very quickly, wasn't there a provocation in the marches? Dr. Hendricks mentioned C.T. Vivian getting hit in the face, not just pop.
Yeah.
In the face, right? There's a provocation to our nonviolent activism that was in the face of oppression that meant to draw the hatred in our direction and not respond to it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Dr. Owens.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's really important. That's the response. That's why the nonviolent response was so important. And that's why when they didn't think and plan, they just didn't go out and decide we're just going to march in the streets. They trained. They even built up their own willingness to resist being spat upon and being hit. They trained. They they worked on that. That wasn't something that just came naturally to them. And John Lewis talks about it being a spiritual practice to engage in nonviolence. It's not a benign, innocent thing to do. It's a tactic of warfare, really, but one that's grounded in a really deep spiritual practice.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. This is KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, more with Dr. Teresa Hort-Owens and Dr. Aubrey Hendricks in our final segment. This has been very rich. When we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're an adult in need of an accredited high school diploma, the Los Angeles Public Library can help. You could earn one for free in as few as 5 months, online with 24/7 access. You also get a personal academic coach, plus special training focused on 9 in-demand industries, as well as a resume and cover letter to advance your career. Visit the website at lapl.org/diploma. That's lapl.org/diploma.
During this time, it's important for everyone to know your rights. The 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments in the U.S. Constitution protects every one of us, regardless of immigration status. The 4th Amendment requires a judicial warrant to search your home. The 5th protects your right to remain silent, and the 6th gives you the right to an attorney. Just remember,
No warrant, no key, my privacy. You don't have to speak. No lawyer inside. Don't say a thing. Yeah, we all got rights. Hey, we all got rights.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Break up with stinky clothes.
Rinse it out.
Every now and then I get a little bit tired of the stings that just will never come out.
Oh, Downy in the rinse straight.
Every now and then I rinse it out. One wash and it delivers. One wash, it smells so clean. Downy Rinse and Refresh, it's a dream.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Fights odor in just one wash. Guaranteed.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The following is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways with the purpose of soliciting sales of vacation ownership. For complete details, please visit fvgradio.com. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and get a complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-868.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Tomorrow is Tenacious Tuesday, and Barbara Arnwine is going to be on the grind on our show. She is our eyes and ears on the ground in Washington, D.C., following the federal courts, following the Congress, and of course, the unpredictable behavior of the President of the United States. In the first hour, Bishop Tolton will share with us the idea and discuss, really picking up on what we've said today, and who is my brother and who is my neighbor. We'll be dealing with that tomorrow. But in this hour on Moving Mountain Mondays, of course, is Dr. Teresa Hord Owens and our very special guest, Dr. Aubrey Hendricks. There is no way I could have ever predicted, Dr. Owens, that Aubrey Hendricks would be with me for 2 hours. I am just sitting over here absolutely tickled pink.
Such a gift. Yeah.
It's a lot of time trying to chase him down to get him to come on our show, and we are extremely grateful. Teresa, as you know, and Dr. Hendricks, as you know, our final segment is always offering a word of hope. And I want to begin with Teresa because, of course, this is her program, but bridging the gap between the generations seems to be something that you and Dr. Hendricks have expressed in all of your works great interests in. Dr. Owens, help us bridge that gap.
I just think it's so important because space was made for me as a younger person. I'm a couple years older than you, Jesse, not that many, but space was made for me to grow and develop. And I'm grateful that I have been able to hold space. We was talking about holding space for people and spiritual direction, all these other kinds of things. And I've watched too many Christians in my own tradition. They want young people in the pews, but they don't want to give up any power or any leadership. And that is, I think, for a long time, the church was the place where we did have our power, right? Where many of us, we might have not been in charge of anything else in our life, but man, we were the deacon or the trustee, and nobody was going to tell us what to do here at this church. And what little control we had, we'd seize it. I see it even in the grocery store, going down the aisle. Some of us are not, don't tell me where to put even if it's just a matter of common courtesy, don't tell me what to do. And we've got to get to a point where we are listening and listening really, and hearing what younger people are saying. I have a 35-year-old son. I've got to listen. He's grown up in a different time, in a more quote unquote integrated environment than I have. I was at a white church in Marietta, Georgia yesterday. And a young trans man came up to me and asked me if he could give me a hug. And he was doing so in response to a sermon. The sermon was from Colossians 3:12-17. Jesus says, Paul tells the church, clothe yourself with kindness, compassion, love, and mercy. And my normal, my two-part, we only have a few sermons, right, that we actually preach. But to say that no one gets to tell you what you're worth or that you are enough. And when I see young people who respond emotionally to a message of inclusion and respect and listening and sitting at tables, we don't do enough of that, first of all. Our structures don't often reward this kind of engagement. You have to be around a long time in order to have authority or power in these institutions. And the institution itself is not the point. Because we've used these institutions for our own communities, we've gotten hung up on the value that they bring, but the institution is not the point. The work that we're trying to do, the transformation of society is the point. And we're not doing enough listening, and we're not making space for people other than ourselves to have a word about how things go.
Institutional maintenance is the order of the day, right? Taking care, protecting our churches and all that. But that's why we talk about hope. The Black Lives Matter movement before it became more bureaucratized. It was, it was amazing. I went to the first convening out in Cleveland, and man, they were so. You had young people, trans people, gay people. They felt so free to be who they were and to bring their energies to a struggle for justice. That's part of the problem of the church. We will only accept people who conform in a certain way. Even Christians have to conform in a certain way. You have to say amen in a certain way sometimes, or you'll be rejected. But I think that the real movement is going to be outside the church. If we could harness these, inspire these and support movement, these young people, we might have some hope of some real change in the society. And I think that's the best thing we could do. One thing that folks said about Cornel West when he was out in Missouri after Brother Brown was killed, the young brother was killed. Cornel was not there trying to tell people what to do. He said, "I'm just here to listen and to be a support. It's your fight now." And I do believe that. But we have to want to support them.
That's right.
And not tell them what to do and ask, well, look, can I suggest this? Can I suggest that? It takes humility, but it also takes clarity that what counts is, as you say, is the struggle. It is the struggle for justice and building a new world, not just the way we want to do. It's not just us. It's about for all of us. Let me say, in my book, The Politics of Jesus, there's a pithy saying in there that came to me and brought me to tears. It was that treat people's needs as holy. Treat the people as holy. If we can, if that can be our standard for politics. Our analytical and our prescriptive standard is this policy treat people's needs as holy. Well, good, then let's do it. If it does not, then we have to jettison the fight against it. If we could just reduce our movement to a summary phrase like that, or summary concept, we might be able to fight these people off.
Treat the people's needs as holy.
As holy, yeah.
Wow. Yes, I remember reading that in the Politics.
It's a summary of the Lord's Prayer, my summary of the Lord's Prayer.
And it literally leaped out of the book at me. Treat the people's needs as holy. Too often our needs are not treated as holy. They're political when they should be treated as holy. I don't know if I've had a richer program. We have about 3 minutes left in the program. Reverend Teresa Hort-Owens, let me try and divide that time equally.
Hope, word of hope. I think, understanding really that there is actually something to be said for naming something as holy, for reverencing something that's higher other than ourselves. And I think we're losing some of that. I'm not advocating for it in a dogmatic way, but simply in a human, existential and ethereal and spiritual way, that our whole selves have to be lived out in some acknowledgement, however you call the holy, that if we lose sight of that, then we lose the only external opportunity that we really have to create hope that's beyond ourselves. And we've got to do that in healthy ways, I think. But I think we risk something if we risk losing just the very idea of that some things actually are holy. I'm not sure that we have enough, reverence. I may be redundant to say we don't have enough reverence for what's holy, but I don't think we do. I don't think we embrace that enough in order to keep our soul, our spiritual persons alive and healthy and reaching for something that's beyond ourselves. That's important to me, and I'm just not sure that we're doing a good job of helping people to tap into that.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to leave that as the last word. I want to thank in a very special way, Teresa Hort-Owens on Moving Mountain Mondays. She is one of the most important contributors that we have all week. She gets us started. And I want to thank you, Dr. Hendricks, for giving us freely of your time. I'm
so excited for Dr. Hort to be head of a major denomination. That gives me hope.
Amen. I've got to get you to the disciples some kind of way, Dr. Hendricks. We're going to figure this out. So
Yeah, I'd love to get together with you. Boy, if we
yeah.
just sit down and coffee, I would love to
Yes,
sit.
would love to do that. Would love to do that.
If both of you
Thank
could
you.
stay
It's
with
been
me
such a
till
gift.
if both of you could stay with me till after the program, we'll take care of that. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA 1580. When we come forward, it will be tomorrow on Tenacious Tuesdays.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation